and welcome to our card 3 paper pumpkin alternative card for our May 2021 paper pumpkin kit. It features the batter up paper pumpkin stamp set, and this is the stamp set that we'll be using. Very fun, and it seems like you can only use it for a certain kind of card, but let me tell you, after I made our 3 basic cards here, so these 3 are the cards that are in the kit. So you get enough supplies to make 9 cards. In fact, you'll have leftover supplies. So what I did is, after I used these card bases, I had enough supplies to do some more cards. So I decided to take my stamp set and make a few more cards. So the card that we'll be doing now is You're the Greatest of All Time. And on this original one, I had used the card front. So I'm going to show you an alternative way, after you've used all the fronts that were part of your kit, what you can do to make sure that you have supplies to make more cards like this. So I have a piece of basic white, and it's thick. It's measured at 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4. So just give that a good press right here and make sure it's nice and flat. Then I've taken a piece of Designer Series paper from our Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper pack. So this is the other side. This is gorgeous too. But because I want this wood grain look to make it look like a bat, I'm going to use this. Now this needs to be measured at 5.5 by 4 1/4, so it completely covers the card front. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere that right now. So I'm just going to take some liquid glue and just put some on here. I want to make sure I get to the corners, but I want a thin bead of glue so that it doesn't ooze out. And then I'll just put some right across here. But I don't want my paper to be flipping up and coming off the card front. So there we go. I'm just going to slide it on and go right to my scored edge there. There we go. So that is my card base. All right, I'm going to move this up out of the way because right now we're going to be taking some other pieces. I have a piece of Designer Series paper, and this is Night of Navy, and it comes in our Neutrals 6x6 Designer Series paper. So that Neutrals 6x6 pack of paper contains 4 sheets of each of the different neutral colors. So there's 10 different colors in here, so you get a pack of 40 6x6 sheets. All right, we're going to be adhering this right to the middle of the card right here. Because that was 6x6, I cut it at 2 inches, and then I cut it down to 5.5, so it would fit just the front of the card. And let's go ahead and add our adhesive here. Again, I like to make sure that my corners have adhesive so that it doesn't pull up off my card. So I can slide that over a little bit. And using the liquid glue gives me a little wiggle room so I can move that to get that nice and centered. All right. Next step, we are going to take a piece of Whisper White, and this is measured at 3.5 by 4 3/4, and we're going to be placing it on the card front just like that. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and stamp my images. I'm pulling in our paper piercing mat because we are working with a photopolymer stamp set, and because of that, we want to make sure that we have a good image. So having that cushion underneath will really help us out. So I'm going to take my block, and I like to make sure that this gets straight. So sometimes these kind of twist and turn. So if you just lay it on your work surface here and then take your block to that and lift it up, it'll be nice and straight. And we are going to be using soft suede for our bat. So I'm going to just move this up out of the way. And I'm going to turn it in different directions as I stamp it. So let's see, I want to stamp, how many can I fit on here? 1, 2, I believe 8. Well, let's just start stamping in the middle. All right, so I'm going to turn this one this way. And I am going to re-ink each time. And I am just going to flip my stamp back and forth. So it's pretty easy to stamp. I'm just eyeballing, lining it up. I didn't really measure it. And it is easier to turn your cardstock as you're stamping too, so that you can get your placements where you need. And worst case is you kind of run out of room or don't have it perfectly aligned, you can trim this down a little bit too. It doesn't have to be exact. And it looks like I can fit one more on here. All right, there we go. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bats stamped on there. Awesome. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way, and we are going to adhere this to the front of the card. Again, I am just going to use my liquid glue. And because I have a white card base, I don't have to worry about putting another piece of cardstock on the inside of my card. I'll be able to stamp and write right on that. Okay, so there we go. Next step that we're going to do, we are going to take a strip of Bumblebee, which is one of the coordinating colors. Now what's awesome on these new color instructions, and yes, Stampin' Up! Did listen to us and made all these in color now, so it's a little easier to see, and they're pretty straightforward on how you're doing it. So it shows you for card 1 what supplies you need, card 2, card 3. So it shows you all those. And this kit actually has 9 cards that you can make. This kit is no longer available. What they do is for a Paper Pumpkin subscription, you place your subscription order before the 10th of the next month, and you get that next month's kit. So for June, you need to subscribe to Paper Pumpkin before June 10th, so that way on June 11th, they will bill you and ship out your kit. I will have a link in the description below that will take you to my online store, so you can sign up for Paper Pumpkin if you're interested. These are all-inclusive kits, and so that means that you're going to get all the products that you need to make the projects that they have. You will get a stamp set. So this was our stamp set for this month. You will get a stamp and spot, so it's a little 1 inch by 1 inch spot. You will get any adhesives that you need, any embellishments that you need, and this actually came with a piece of dimensionals and some baker's twine. So you get everything that you need. The only thing that you really need to add when you get these kits is just a pair of snips. And if you prefer another adhesive, versus using these little glue dots, that's about it. All right, let's continue on with our card. So I have this strip of Bumblebee. This measures 1 inch by 5.5. I'm going to take my Tailor Tag punch, and I'm going to trim out my ends. And my Tailor Tag punch is right here. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to flip it upside down so I can see where I'm cutting. I'm just sliding this in, and I'm not really measuring it. I'm just making sure that I am even on both sides. So let's go ahead and punch that. I'm not trying to take too much off these sides, just enough to make a banner that will fit. Okay, so there is my banner. So that's going to fit right on there, just like that. I am going to pop this up on dimensional, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm not going to be stamping that, so let's go ahead and just take 3 dimensionals here. Peel off those little backings. And place this right on the front of the card. And I'm just centering it right on there. Okay. Next step, we're going to do a little more stamping. So I have a strip of just a scrap piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to grab my You're the Greatest. So it says You're the Greatest of All Time. So I'm going to put that down. I'm going to grab my block. Now, if your block doesn't fit your stamp set, you can always turn it at an angle so it will fit. So you don't have to worry about having too many blocks. With your Paper Pumpkin subscription, your first one, you do get a clear block. It's a little different, but it works just as well. And now I'm going to pull in my Real Red ink. So far I've used the Real Red and Soft Suede ink. I am going to pull in the navy ink because we're going to also stamp the little baseball hat. So let's get this stamped right on here. And I'm just going to be fussy cutting that out. There we go. Now, if you find that your photopolymer stamp doesn't get a nice solid image, two things could be the result. You don't have a nice cushion underneath your work surface there, or your stamp is brand new and it kind of has a little bit of a film on it. So what I like to do is I stamp my photopolymer new ones in Versamark. I do that a couple times, stamp it off on some paper, and then use my little Stampin' Chamois to clean it with, and that will help you get a better image, because like I said, sometimes when they're brand new there's a little film on there, and that's just part of the manufacturing process. That's just how it is. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and stamp my baseball hat, and this time I am using the Night of Navy to coordinate with our Night of Navy Designer Series paper. So I'm going to go ahead and we can use that same block. All right. And because I'm going to be fussy cutting these out, I don't have to worry about them lining up just perfectly. So, oops, I stamped the wrong side. That's not going to work. I was wondering why it was looking so different. So let me just get that cleaned up here. And let's try this again. Okay. And now I got my fingers all inky, and I'll just have to be careful on that. Okay, so let's ink this up in Night of Navy. And we'll go ahead and stamp our hat right here. Just like that. Now, as it dries, it looks pretty dark. It looks almost black right there. As it dries, it'll lighten up just a little bit. So no worries about that. Okay, I still need to clean that stamp better. Okay, put that off to the side. Make sure I don't have ink all over my fingers, and I do, but we'll just make sure they're dry. Okay, let's grab our snips here and start cutting. I'm going to separate these two just because it makes it easier to cut. Now, in my last video, you saw I took a pencil and drew around the image, so I had a good guideline of how I wanted to cut this, but I'm pretty comfortable doing this, so I didn't draw that this time. Once you start what we call fussy cutting, and this is fussy cutting, once you start doing this more often, you it's actually easy. You get comfortable with it. And I am a person that cannot cut a straight line, so if I can do it, anyone can do it. All right, there we go. So there's that, and then we'll cut out our hat. Now I'm going to warn you that some inks take a little bit longer to dry depending on what region you live in as well and how humid it is. I find that Night of Navy, Real Red, and Pacific Point, because they're such vibrant colors, they tend to take a little longer to dry. So you may want to just put those off to the side to dry for a little bit. It's not like it takes a really long time, just a minute or two. All right, so there are our next pieces. Let's get this out of the way. We'll slide back in our card front. And now we're going to take dimensionals and we're going to add dimensionals behind this to give it a little bit more of a pop. So we'll go ahead and add 3 dimensionals here. All right, peel off those backings. And this card is super quick to do. I'm going to slide this to the right just a little bit, and you'll see why in just a second. So I have our baseball hat here, and I need to put that somewhere. So what I'm going to do is, you see that this pops up a little bit more, so it's a little bit higher. So if I wanted this baseball hat to be on the lower part of the card. I'd have to use 2 dimensionals to get it to be the same height, but I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to layer it. So all I'm going to do is, this bumblebee has dimensionals behind it, so all I'm going to need is 1 dimensional right at the top of the hat. And then I'm just going to layer that on the bumblebee and overlap it onto that banner. So there is our card. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and click on that little notification bell. That way, anytime I post a new video, you will be notified. It'll just tell you that I've got a new video available. Again, in a link, I will have a list of the added supplies that I use to make this card. I will also have a link to Paper Pumpkin if you're interested in subscribing and you don't already have a demonstrator. And I will also have a link to my email list. So if you're not a subscriber to my email list, please go ahead and sign up. That way you'll get a weekly email on any upcoming classes I have or specials I have. I do Facebook Lives once a week, so that's on Thursday nights. But I also do a Paper Pumpkin pajama party. So this is where I actually unbox what's in the Paper Pumpkin kit. I make 3 of the projects that come with the kit, and then I do alternative projects. What's fun about that group when we're doing that is you can actually give me you can interact with me and tell me, hey, try this or try that. It's a lot of fun. Our group was pretty lively last night when we did this. So we did some really cute cards. So here are the cards that we came up with. This is the All-Star Baby card, and I do have a video on that. This was our You're the Best Mom for all those baseball moms out there. And I have another alternative project, and that video will be posted shortly. Thanks again. Happy crafting.